Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Monday, the 7th of July, all day. You join myself and Mr. Michael Brown for the Morning Blast, where, as it's Monday, we'll be giving a review of Friday and also what's happened over the weekend, a preview of today, and also a look forward throughout the week. But before we do, we'll get the legals out of the way. So, as usual, nothing discussed in this basis session constitute. Oh, you're right there.
Yes, sorry, I was just moving. Apologies,
Okay.
I didn't realise I wasn't on mute.
That's right. As usual, nothing discussed in this space session constitute trading or investment advice or infers any kind of endorsement by PIQ, myself, Ryan Paisley, or indeed Mr. Michael Brown. Before we kick off, just got to raise something because I'm getting a bit confused by what's going on with some data here, because some recent survey data, and including a Deloitte survey, seems to be pointing that there's confidence in the UK economy and it's a good place to invest. I would like to know who the fuck they're asking for these things.
Yeah, firstly, very good morning, everyone. I know I've sort of slightly interrupted already, but yeah, I'd love to know as well. If anyone knows anyone who's responded to these surveys, then please put them in touch. Ryan and I would love to buy them a beer and potentially bring along some men in white coats to take them
Yeah,
away afterwards as well.
like on the Monday after we hear, like last week about all like taxes are pretty much definitely going up in the autumn budget, yada, yada, yada. But it's not even the first survey that's kind of pointed this. So I don't know, something's not right here. Maybe because it's definitely not improving. This is what I
N-
can't get.
No, I don't want to go all sort of tinfoil hat on everyone, but I'm with you on that one. Yeah, very, very strange indeed.
Yeah. But
And
anyway, moving
maybe
on.
they're surveying the civil service because they're probably the only people who are doing well in the country at the moment.
Well, yeah, exactly. Pretty much. Anyone's guaranteed a pay rise. I'll give you a clue. Here's a question. I'm assuming the government pay national insurance.
Yeah, they pay themselves.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, as long as we cleared that one up.
Yeah.
Right. What's been occurring then?
Indeed, yes, let's crack on. Very good morning, everybody. Happy Monday from an incredibly wet and grim city of London this morning. Where do we stand? Well, not a lot happened on Friday, to be completely honest with you. It was, of course, Independence Day in the United States, which meant that trade was very, very subdued indeed. And it was also a relatively light day in terms of news flow, when the biggest headline of the day is the Eurozone PPI figures from 2 months ago. I think that pretty much tells you everything you need to know about how subdued the end of the week proved to be. Nevertheless, there are a few bits and bobs worth running through this morning. Of course, we are now just 2 days away from those Liberation Day tariffs being due to go back into effect. But maybe we're not, actually, given
Yeah.
what President Trump has said overnight. He was saying that they have now signed a number, we don't know what number, but a number of tariff letters and or letters announcing trade deals that will be delivered starting from midday today Eastern time, 5 o'clock this evening here in London. But, of course, we don't know what tariff levels will be in those letters, and whatever tariff level is in those letters will not actually become effective until the 1st of August. So just to recap, we had some tariffs announced on the 2nd of April, a pause on the 9th of April, that pause running until the 9th of July, which has now apparently become the 1st of August, and which is already likely to become Labour Day, if you listen to what Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, has been saying in the past. So again, the Trump administration giving themselves plenty of wriggle room as they pursue what looks to be another episode of this escalate to de-escalate strategy that Trump has been using, not only in terms of trade, but also geopolitically, of course, as we saw a week or so ago in the Middle East. And markets, although we have had a little bit of a wobble in terms of risk appetite, with futures taking a modest leg lower this morning, I think markets are somewhat becoming rather immune to, and frankly
Yeah,
rather
definitely.
bored of, all of the noise, particularly when you consider that we've probably got 3.5 more years of this to come. The one bit of sort of new tariff news that we have had Also came via President Trump on Truth Social overnight, saying that any country aligning with the anti-American BRICS nations will face an additional 10% tariff with no negotiations. So we will see, again, whether or not he follows through on that threat, or whether that is some sort of threat designed to extract concessions from India or Russia or Brazil or whoever.
Speaking
Well,
of
not Russia, but Brazil or whoever it may be. Go on.
speaking of following through, does feel like what's going on here is Trump and these tariffs and these letters do feel all fart no poo at the moment.
Yes, that's very succinctly put, and
Well, I
I would
try.
very much agree with that one.
Yeah, you can feel free to use that in one of your Bloomberg interviews.
I might pass, but thank you nonetheless.
Okay. Well, it's there if you need it.
We did have a couple of other bits of trade news over the weekend. TSMC, of course, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing, they were reportedly, according to the Wall Street Journal, going to prioritize investment in the US in order to try and basically get on Trump's good side. They were going to invest in the US and do their developments there first and potentially delay the construction of some chip plants in Japan as a result. I don't think the Japanese took this particularly well because TSMC came out very, very quickly to deny those remarks, but I think it's very much a case of no smoke without fire there. And speaking of Japan, we have had reporting within the last hour or so via the Nikkei newspaper that apparently Japanese automakers have been exploring ways to reduce trade imbalances with the United States. One of the ideas under discussion is possibly the most mental thing I've ever heard, which is that Toyota is talking about shipping parts from Japan to the US, making those parts into a car in the United States, and then shipping the finished car back to Japan, which seems like a hell of a long-winded way to try and get on Trump's good side. But I guess it speaks to how desperate all of the Japanese automakers are to avoid a significant ratcheting up of tariffs on that front. Away from trade, as I said, relatively light in terms of news flow, as you would expect, with the US having been out for a 4-day weekend. We did in Europe have news on Friday that Germany is apparently going to be spending 25 billion euros, if not more, on up to 2,500 fighting vehicles and 1,000 new tanks. I assume that's not the vehicles themselves having a fighter. It's sort of something that can carry people who fight. But nonetheless, obviously one to watch for European defence names and speaks to the continued increase in defence spending that we see on the continent. Staying there, we have from ECB President Lagarde on Friday. She was just reiterating that the ECB is in a good place on interest rates. That is code for they don't want to cut any more unless they have to. And it is also very much in keeping with the recent script that Lagarde has been using. And last, but by no means least, news from OPEC over the weekend. Of course, our resident oil correspondent can chip in on this momentarily. But OPEC Plus agreeing to a 550,000 barrel per day output hike for August. The expectation was that they would deliver another 411,000 barrels per day, so larger than expected from OPEC Plus there. This comes as the Saudis continue to seek to unwind all of the 2.2 million barrel per day additional voluntary output cuts. They want to get that wrapped up ASAP. The reaction in crude benchmarks as the market has reopened for the week is very, very limited. Brent and WTI trading down by less than 1% apiece as I speak. So the market sort of taking that in its stride. And that's pretty much it from me for the time being.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So just to read off some headlines and some news which we cover in the Overnight News Roundup. As always, do follow Zach Eisman on Twitter. Also subscribe to our Substack. It is the best way to stay up to date with all the overnight news that you might have missed when you were in bed. Starting off, as usual, with some trade. As Michael alluded to, Trump tariff letters. President Trump announces on Truth Social that tariff letters and trade deal notices will be sent to countries worldwide starting 12 p.m. Eastern today, pushing for agreements by August the 1st to avoid higher April tariff levels. BRICS tariff warning, as Michael said, Trump posts on social media that nations aligning with BRICS quote, anti-American policies face additional 10% of tariffs, no exceptions, after BRICS leaders criticised US tariffs at the Brazil summit. In terms of US trade deal updates, in terms of specific countries, Vietnam agrees to zero tariffs on US goods but negotiates exemptions. That's according to Wall Street Journal. UK secures a model trade deal with the US. Details to follow, I assume. China reaches interim agreement lowering tariffs temporarily. US eases chip software and ethane export curbs. EU's von der Leyen consults leaders on accepting higher tariffs, but talks stall. That's according to the FT. Japan's negotiator Akazawa hits impasse with US Commerce Secretary Lutnick. That's according to Reuters. Indonesia, they're to buy $300 million in US wheat. That's to clinch the deal and get that over the line. As we've been saying now for a very long time, ags and energy purchases are going to be the easy way for countries to make up deficits, etc. Or to shrink them. Canada considers subsidies for aluminium producers like Rio Tinto to offset 50% US tariffs. China's EU retaliation now. China Finance Ministry bans government purchases of EU medical devices over $6.3 million, retaliating against EU trade restrictions. So
They've
another trade front there.
also,
Go on.
you may be about to say this, but haven't they also done something to do with brandy as well?
Yes, the China have decided to kind of ignore the big or the good brandy houses, because obviously that's what the rich Chinese like to drink. So they're giving them a pass basically,
What a
which
surprise.
is fair enough. You've mentioned about the production hike, as we've kind of labelled it in our own shows now for quite a long time. This is just Operation Market Share.
Yep.
Trump slams Musk. This is a story that's really kicked off again over the weekend. Trump calls Elon Musk a train wreck on Truth Social, criticising his third-party push, lack of EV mandates in the new fiscal bill, and NASA ties.
Has he got a mirror handy?
Yeah, quite. This will be an interesting one to watch, actually, because they seem to be getting very spicy. I think I saw Elon Musk posting about the Epstein files again this morning or last night, whenever it was. Or the
Oh,
lack of
God.
these files. Dollar shorting trends now. Traders bet on Chinese yuan, Australian dollar, and South Korean won over the euro to short the US dollar, expecting the Fed to cut rates. That's per Bloomberg. Crypto investment surge, one for Cam. Obviously, we got the crypto blast later on today. Crypto firms pour billions into tokenized money market and treasury bond funds for yields beyond stablecoins, reports the FT. Again, this is the story that has been growing, quite rapidly in recent weeks or so, and we've mentioned it a couple of times that these stablecoin firms are now becoming quite serious, chunky players in the treasury market. So one to keep an eye on there. Japan's election risk poll suggests that Japan's LDP and Komito, I believe that's how you pronounce it, may lose
Don't
majority in
ask
the
me.
yeah, don't do the eyes.
Oh, no.
God. May lose majority in July 20th election, potentially leading to expansive fiscal policy, per Reuters. Sticking with Japan, Japan's wage drop. Japanese real wages fall at the fastest pace, since September 23, as inflation outpaces salary growth. That's per Bloomberg. China's nickel reserves. China stockpiles nickels for EV batteries and stainless steel amid US trade war risks. Sticking with China, their rural retraining. China launches plan with 14 tasks to retain rural workforce for better job prospects. Moving over to Europe, Germany output surge. German industrial production rises unexpectedly in May, likely rushing output before US tariffs, so front running there. Moving
Well,
to the UK, gone.
I was going to say very quickly on that, the other thing is it's probably starting from an incredibly low base anyway.
Yes, yeah, this is what happens, right? We have seen it actually fall off a cliff in recent months. Moving to the UK housing stalls. UK house prices flat for second month after tax break expiry and rising seller supply. That's according to Halifax. South Korean stimulus. South Korea approves 20 billion with a B in dollars in fiscal stimulus to bolster economy under President Lee. That's per Wall Street Journal. The Turkey crackdown, gobble gobble. Turkey investigates opposition leaders and arrests mayors, raising investor concerns over rule of law. Thailand's economic plan. Thailand to push stimulus in 2026 budget despite political crisis. That's according to the finance ministry. Israel's Gaza talks. Netanyahu optimistic on Gaza hostage and ceasefire deal after talks with Trump, who predicts progress this week. Sticking with Israel, Israel struck some Houthi targets in 3 Yemeni ports and a power plant. First strike in a month. That's according to the Israeli military via Reuters. We did have Houthis using drone boats and stuff, and they've sunk a bulk carrier. I think it was Greek
Yes.
flagged. So we'll definitely want to keep an eye on, because if they start hitting traffic down that way, one to keep an eye on. Japan, Philippines, their defense deals. Japan to export used Navy destroyers to the Philippines to counter China's maritime moves. Sticking with that kind of vibe, China-Taiwan tensions. China opens new M503 flight route, or 503, near Taiwan Strait, prompting Taipei's protest over status quo shift. What have we got here? Tesla, moving into some equity names. China woes. Tesla lags behind China's rivals, and Musk's Trump rift reduces Beijing clout. Everyone had a good word there. I do like a bit clout. Again, Tesla's suffering this morning, obviously due to, you can guess where Trump's going to take aim now that Musk is kind of coming up with open warfare against him.
Mm-hmm.
And it will be a certain car maker. Oracle's US discount. Oracle cuts database and cloud service costs for the US government following other tech giants. AI data center boom. US industrials pivot to data centers for AI-driven growth per the FT. AI startup Grok opens first European data center. That's according to CNBC. Shell, the oil giant, their output is dropping. Shell expects lower upstream production after maintenance and Nigerian asset sale. What else we got? And finally from me, a Foxconn sales jump. Foxconn reports a 15.8% sales growth on AI server and iPhone demand, and an optimistic Q3, and that's per Bloomberg. And that's it from me. Back to you in the studio.
Good stuff. Thank you, Ryan. Well, in terms of the day and the week ahead, then, I think, of course, tariffs and trade chatter and noise and headlines will dominate not only today, but also probably for most of the week. It is Wednesday morning, UK time, when the US tariffs are set to ratchet back up to their Liberation Day levels as things stand right now for everyone other than the UK and Vietnam. If you are listening back to this show in even half an hour, let alone a few hours later, then things could be very, very different. So do please bear that in mind. In terms of scheduled events, though, to be honest with you, this week's economic docket is very, very barren indeed. I will just go through it in the interest of good order. We have the latest retail sales figures out of Europe at 10 o'clock this morning, and absolutely nothing else on today's slate. Into Tuesday, the Reserve Bank of Australia, they're set to deliver a 25 basis point cut, lowering the cash rate to 3.6%, and also likely signalling further cuts to come in the months ahead. We do get a 3-year Treasury auction on Tuesday as well. Into Wednesday, of course, the tariff deadline, as I alluded to a moment ago. Also, a policy decision due from the Reserve Bank of New Zealand. They are set to hold rates steady at 3.25%. We also get the release of minutes from the June FOMC meeting and a 10-year Treasury sale in the States. Into Thursday, it's time for the weekly US jobless claims numbers and also a 30-year Treasury auction, some Fed speak on Thursday too. And then into Friday, we have jobs figures due from Canada, and we also have monthly GDP out of the UK, which is far, far too noisy to be of any particular use. So definitely a week where trade headlines are likely to dominate. In terms of the next sort of key scheduled risk events, we're really looking to next Tuesday, the 15th of July. That is not only when we will have the next US CPI figures, it is also when we will have the sort of unofficial start of Q2 earnings season on Wall Street, with the banks kicking things off next Tuesday. So I think it's very much going to be a week of headline watching, which of course allows Ryan to plug PIQ Suite.
Indeed.
And
Big up. I'll tell you what though, big update over the weekend, so do check it out. The mobile
there we
site's
go.
really starting to the mobile site's really kind of popping at the moment. We obviously got the new AI bot on there as well, so go to, I think, what is it, app.piqsuite.com. Do check that out. Also, we've got
That's just
access to, go on.
your AI is just Tom Talks Cars sat there typing away, I think.
Well, yeah, it's not far off, to be fair. I joke. We are really using something called AI. I'm not really. Don't ask me how it works. It's not me.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. I think it's headline watching this week, US CPI
Yeah.
and earnings season, the next scheduled events. And yeah, just prepare for a deafening tirade of trade rhetoric over the next 5 days
Well,
or so.
and also, well, hopefully the Trump and Musk fight will keep us amused. So yeah, get your popcorn for that. But yeah, no, I agree.
I'll,
It's
I'll,
one.
I'll take trade. You can take that soap opera. We'll
Yes,
have one each.
perfect, perfect. I think it fits our mental capacity a lot
Very
better.
much so.
Oh, thanks. Right, Michael. On that note, thank you so much as always, listeners. Thank you as always. We hope you had a great weekend, especially those that had an extended one. Welcome back to the Thunderdome. Yeah, we'll see you all tomorrow. Much love.
Bye for now.